Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Azmiza Binti Effendi. My matric number is F1067. Now I want to present about audit documentation. Audit documentation under ISA 230 is defined as the record of audit procedure performed, relevant audit evidence obtained, and conclusion the auditors reach. So, audit documentation or working papers is served as a written record of the auditor's work and supports the auditor's opinion. Next, what is the purpose of audit documentation? The main purpose of the audit documentation is a sufficient appropriate record of the basis for the auditor's report evidence that the audit was planned and performed in accordance with ISA and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. Other purpose is provide a clear, organized record of the audit process, including the work performed, evidence gathered, and conclusion reached. So what I can say here, audit documentation is to maintain a clear and structured record of the audit procedures, evidence, and findings. Next, we have two types of audit documentation, which is first we have permanent file and second we have current file. Permanent file is a set of records that serve as an ongoing reference for an organization's external auditor. The information in the permanent file is intended to be accessed repeatedly in successive audit to assist the audit team in the conduct of the task. Next, current file. This type of file is maintained by the auditor, in which the auditor keeps the working paper relating to a single accounting period. The file is a significant importance in audit progress because a current file contains information regarding audit conducted for the current period. So what I can conclude here, for permanent file is essential records used as a long-term reference by the auditors to support future audits and ensure continuity in the audit process. Next, current file hold audit working papers and information specific to the audit of a single accounting period, playing a key role in the tracking progress of the current audits. Lastly, I want to present about content in the current file. Content in the current file, number one, we have audit program. Audit program is a structured or plan or checklist used by the auditors to systematically evaluate a company's financial statements, internal control, and operational process. It is also help ensure that the audit is conducted truly and efficiently, providing a roadmap for auditor to follow. Number two, we have working trial balance. Working trial balance, it is a critical component in the audit process. It represents a summarized list of all ledger account balance of a company at a specific point in time, typically at the end of reporting periods, and is used by the auditors to verify the accuracy of financial reporting. It also serves as a foundation for the financial statement preparation and provides a clear overview of the financial data that auditor use to verify the company's financial position. In number three, we have schedule and analysis. Analysis refer to detailed schedules, breakdowns, and analysis of key financial statements items used in the audit process. Schedules and analysis help auditor to track, verify, evaluate financial statements, balance, and supporting details, ensuring that the client's financial reports are accurate and comply with applicable accounting standard. And number four, we have proposed adjusting, reclassifying entry. Adjusting and reclassifying entries is referred to any changes recommended by the auditor to the client's financial statement based on audit findings. The financial statement presented fairly and accurately in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles or other relevant accounting framework. These entries will help to correct error, align the record with appropriate accounting period, and reflect the true financial position performance of the organization. And lastly, we have audit memoranda and corroborating information. Audit memoranda and corroborating information is a written record that documents specific aspect of the audit process of the current period. So this is the critical to maintaining the integrity and reliability of the audit process to ensure that the auditors' findings are well supporting, traceables, and defensibles, providing a strong foundations for the final audit opinion. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Amira Aimi binti Zulkifli and my metric number is F1128. I would like to present about importance of audit working paper. First, are necessary for audit quality control purpose. Second, provide evidence that an effective audit has been carried out. Third, increase the economy, efficiency and effectiveness of the audit. Fourth, up-to-date facts which justify the reasonableness of the auditor's conclusion. Fifth, retain a record of matters of continuing significance to future audits. Next, I would like to present about audit program, working trial balance, and schedule and analysis. Audit program, also known as an audit plan, is a structured documented plan that outlines the procedure auditor will follow to verify an organization compliance with regulation or internal policy. A set of direction that the auditor need to follow for the proper execution of the audit. Second is working trial balance. A working trial balance is a trial balance that is in the process of being adjusted. In concept, it is an unadjusted trial balance that you will use to determine if adjusting entries are needed to close the month. Use the working trial balance report to write in adjustment and notation in the blank column. Third, schedule and analysis. A schedule outlines the plan, timeline and scope of audit, where analysis involves examining data and findings to identify trends, risks, and areas for improvement. Next, about audit working paper review, which is first, define objective. Understand the goal of the review process. It is for performance review, project evaluation, compliance checks. It is determined the objective because we want to know the goals that we want to achieve for the company, so that before we want to audit a company, we must know the objective. Second, review documentation. Evaluate any documented guidelines, protocol, or standard operating procedure (SOP) for the review process. When we want to review a company's documentation, we need to evaluate all aspects of any guidelines. Therefore, we as auditor can know whether the company meets the requirement or not. Third is interview stakeholder, talk to those involved in the review process. Examples: managers, employees, reviewer, to get their feedback on the process effectiveness, so the auditor can see and consider all aspects when discussing with the people involved. Last, data collection and analysis. Collect data on how long the review process typically takes, how often reviews are completed on time, and any backlogs. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Arif Faizal bin Zainal. My matrix number is F1052. I'm here to present about changes to audit file, ownership of audit working paper, and audit sampling. So the first one, changes to audit file. Changes to audit working papers are permitted but must be properly documented to maintain the integrity and reliability of audit process. If changes are made before the audit report is issued, the original content should be retained and any modification must be clearly dated, explained and signed by the person making the change. This ensures transparency and traceability in case the audit evidence is later reviewed. Reviewers must also sign off these changes to meet quality control standards. So the next point, once the audit report has been issued, changes to working papers are generally restricted. Any necessary amendments must not alter the original document, but should instead be recorded through a separate memo and addendum that explains the reason for the change, the date it was made, and who approved it. These strict rules help preserve the authenticity of the audit evidence and ensure compliance with audit standards like ISA 230, which emphasizes that audit documentation must be complete, accurate, and tamper-proof. So the next one is ownership of audit working paper. The first point, working papers are the property of the auditor. The auditor's right of ownership, however, are subject to ethical limitation relating to the confidential relationship with client. Next point, certain of the auditor's working papers may sometimes serve as a useful reference source for his client, but the working papers should not be regarded as a part of a substitute for the client's accounting records. The third point, the auditor should adopt reasonable procedure for safe custody of his working paper and should retain them for a period sufficient to meet the needs of his practice and to satisfy any pertinent legal requirements of record retention. So the last one is audit sampling. ISA 560 defines sampling as the application of audit procedure to less than 100% of item within a population of audit relevance. All sampling units have a change of selection in order to provide the auditor with a reasonable basis on which to draw conclusion about the entire population. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Alia Farha binti Muhammad Yasmi. My number matrix is 06D80-235-1045. So today I would like to present about audit sampling process. So first, audit sampling process is population to samples to audit tests and to audit findings. So for population, auditor need to identify population first. Second step is auditor need to apply sampling method or approach. Third is auditor need to perform audit procedure such as any inquiries, inspection and analytical. Lastly, audit findings used as basis of audit opinion. Okay, next is sampling approaches. Sampling approaches divides into two, which is statistical sampling and non-statistical sampling. I will explain statistical sampling first. So, for statistical sampling, it uses the principles of probability to select samples and evaluate results. Every item in the population has a known and equal chance of being chosen. So statistical planning is divided into three, which is random selection, systematic selection, and monetary unit sampling. So for non-statistical sampling, it relies on the auditor's or evaluator's judgment rather than probability. The person conducting the sampling use their experience or intuition. Non-statistical sampling divide into two, which is haphazard selection and block selection. Okay, next I will explain types of statistical sampling. First is random selection. For random selection, in a simple random sample, every item of the population has an equal chance of being selected. To conduct this type of sampling, auditor use tools like random number table or random number generators or other techniques that are based entirely on chance. For example, auditor decides sample size is 5 and random table software will produce 5 random numbers. Okay. For systematic selection, the method divides the number of sampling units within a population into the sample size to generate a sample interval. The starting point for the sample can be generated randomly, but ISA 530 recognizes that it is more likely to be truly random if the use of random number generators or random number tables are used. Lastly, monetary unit sampling selection. For this type, it's selecting items based upon monetary values, usually focusing on higher value items. Monetary unit sampling selections defines the sampling unit as an individual ringgit Malaysia in an account balance and select transaction or account ledger with larger amounts. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Narfaita Afika binti Nur Azamuddin. My matrix number is F1064. I'm the last presenter. So now let's move to the next slide. I will explain about the sampling risk and non-sampling risk. For sampling risk, the risk that the auditors conclusions based on a sample may be different from the conclusion if the entire population were the subjects of the same audit procedure. For example, if the samples appears to be error-free but the population contains error, the auditor might wrongly conclude there are no issues. Next, for the non-sampling risk that auditor give inappropriate document not related to sampling risk. For example, of course, auditor misinterpreted audit evidence due to lack of knowledge, limited time, or other factor. Auditor poorly design audit procedures. Which is, the auditor designs a poor audit procedure leading to incorrect conclusions. In short, sampling risk is about the sample not representing the whole. Other than that, non-sampling risk is about the auditor. Okay, so next slide about audit testing. First, test of control, also known as compliance test, to examine the effectiveness of client's internal control, inquiries, observation, inspection, and re-performance. So, why it is important? If controls are strong and working well, auditors may choose to do less substantive testing because they can rely on the controls. If controls are weak, they will need to do more detailed testing. Second, substantive test. Detailed examination if ICS weak to evaluate the reasonableness of an item in the client's financial statements, to verify different assertions of an item in the financial statement, recalculation, confirmation, and analytical procedures. Why it is important? Because even if internal controls seem strong, mistakes or fraud could still happen. Substantive tests help auditors catch actual errors or irregularities. Okay, next, sampling for the test of control. Attribute sampling. Select sample based on specific attributes or characteristics. Example of attributes: to verify authorizations, procedures for payment to supplier, to examine the segregation of duties. At the end, auditor need to conclude whether ICS client is effective or not. So, the purpose of sampling for test of control is this is used during test of controls where the auditors wants to assess whether internal control like approval process or segregation of duties are working effectively. It focuses on the presence or absence of specific attributes. Then, sampling for substantive test. Probability proportional to size. Substantive test is conducted on transaction or on account balance. PPS is sampling design that divides a population into smaller segments to enable an auditor to choose the sample for each segment, also known as MUS. PPS ensures that every unit has the same chance of being selected. So, sampling for substantive tests, the purpose is substantive test is about checking the accuracy of financial data, either transaction or account balance. So the last slide is finding of audit testing. First, test of control. The purpose is to evaluate the effectiveness of internal controls in preventing of detecting material misstatement. For examples, checking if purchase orders are properly approved, reviewing if bank reconciliations are performed and reviewed regularly, observing inventory counts to see if controls are following. So, to evaluate how well the client's internal control systems are working. If the controls are reliable, auditors can reduce the amount of substantive testing. Next, substantive test. Purpose: to detect material misstatements in the financial statements regardless of internal control effectiveness. So for example, confirming account receivables balance with customer, checking invoice and receipts for a sample of sales transactions, physically counting inventory and comparing with records. So substantive test purpose to directly check for errors or misstatements in the financial statements. This is especially important if internal controls are weak or unreliable. That's all from me. Thank you.